Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. Big stakes action really around the country and north of the border as well. We'll talk a little Woodbine in just a moment, but coming up a little bit later on, we'll also be joined by John Piassek from the Maryland Horse Breeders Association. Nice stakes day down at Pimlico today, so we'll talk some of those stakes races as well. But we're going to kick things off. Our friend Ron Gierkink up at Woodbine, and we were talking off the air. It's been too long since we've been up at Woodbine, but we'll get some preview of a nice stakes day up there, Woodbine Mile, with Ron. Ron, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. How are you today?
Very good. Happy to have you on board. And before we get to this afternoon, just want to talk in general because it's been a nice summer and last few weeks up at Woodbine. And one I wanted to bring up, Moira gets back to her winning ways. I have the Buyers here and wins the Canadian with a 101 Buyer. Nice performance last week by Moira.
Yeah, she was back to her old self last weekend, winning that race easily. I mean, she had excuses in her first few races of the year that she lost, and that win sets her up nicely for the E.P. Taylor in October. So, yeah, it's nice to see her back, and maybe she can make her way back to the Breeders' Cup this year if she runs well in the Taylor.
And that was the first win of the year, right?
Her first win, in about a year,
yeah. And it was certainly a nice performance, as I say, with the triple-digit Buyer. And I wanted to go back to a little bit earlier. Happened during the Saratoga meet. So for folks who maybe it flew under the radar, nice win in the King's Plate from Paramount Prince, the Mark Casse runner, who I thought got away a little bit of a price coming off the win in the plate trial. So it was a nice performance. But I will also note just the other day, the Prince of Wales, the second leg of the Canadian Triple Crown was run. Were you over at Fort Erie? Did you see Velociter get the victory?
I wasn't there, but I covered the race from Woodbine, and Velociter had been fourth, I think, in the plate trial and the plate, and he worked out a really nice trip in the mud behind the speed and tipped out and was able to wear down Paramount Prince, and then Kauko Kaipu caught Paramount Prince for a second on the wire. So that was jockey Justin Stein's second straight win in the Prince of Wales. So maybe all three might go on to the Breeders' Stakes, which is the last leg of the Triple Crown here, going a mile and a half in about 3 weeks.
Yeah, Paramount Prince, I thought ran third, but I thought ran well given the early fractions, 22 and change, 45, 110. And Paramount Prince was cutting those fractions and had a horse right there behind Ottawa who was kind of pushing a little bit, and that one faded to last. So I thought holding on Paramount Prince. I will say Velociter, I thought the $17 and change price might have been a little short, given that this one was fourth in the King's Plate at 71-1 and was fourth in the plate trial at 45-1. I thought either the price was short or somebody knew.
Yeah, it was kind of short. Yeah, I mean, he was getting perfect inside trips in the plate and the trial, so I kind of discounted him a bit, and then he gets another perfect trip and he wins. You know how it goes, right? And he's he certainly loves the mud, and the owners of that horse, the Wellings, that was their second Prince of Wales win.
Oh, nice.
So it was a pretty good race.
And then they come back to Woodbine, and the intriguing thing is the first leg is on the synthetic, the Prince of Wales the other day on the dirt, and they come back the last leg of the Canadian Triple Crown on the turf, correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, no horses swept the three races on different surfaces. I mean, it's quite a tall order, isn't it?
Yeah.
On three different surfaces, and we'll have one or two new shooters for the breeders too. It could be tough. Speaking
of new shooters and the King's Plate, 17 horses. That was, from a betting standpoint, that was fabulous.
Yeah, it was, and they had record handle on the day. That was good to see. It was a really good card, and I think having the Queen's Plate the third weekend in August is maybe what they'll stick with for a while. And even Fort Erie on Tuesday had a record handle on their Prince of Wales card, despite the rain and some scratches. Yeah, the betting was good on the Triple Crown, the big cards this year at Woodbine and Fort Erie.
And again, just before we go to today, I also wanted to touch on, because I pulled up the Equibase stats. I have them here on my computer on the human side of things. Kimura has opened up a little lead. Kimura over Hernandez on the jockey side, 82-70 with Kimura in the lead. Sitting fourth on the list, Emma Jane Wilson. So she's having a nice meet as well. Over on the trainer's side, though, no surprise. Mark Cassie over Marty Drexler, 73-51. Mark Cassie having a great meet.
Yeah, as usual, a great meet. And, Marty's the Woodbine's top claiming trainer, and he's done well at Gulfstream the last few winters. So he's really, his career has taken off the last few years.
And I will say, since Gulfstream put in that synthetic surface, it seems like, particularly over the past couple of seasons, a lot of Canadian trainers have been kind of wintering down there and taking advantage of their synthetic surface.
Yeah, that's true. A few others up here, like Katerina Vasileva, and there's Tapeta now at Turfway, and it looks like Belmont you'll be racing on Tapeta in the winter eventually at Belmont. So there's places to go after our meet ends now. You can race a horse on Tapeta year round.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's jump in and get some previews on a nice stakes card today up at Woodbine. Before we do that, what's your weather look like today?
Looks very good. It's sunny, not too hot, maybe a bit cloudy, no rain in the forecast. And the first race is off the turf. It's a maiden claimer. It's off the main turf. The rest of the races are on the turf, all the important ones. So 12 races start at first one at 1:15.
Excellent. Let's kind of work our way back from the highlight, the Woodbine Mile, Grade 1 event, $1 million up for grabs, as the title suggests, a mile on the turf. I'm going to go with War Bomber. I'm going to take a little shot with the Norm McKnight runner coming out of the win in the King Edward, but I'm going to pull up a replay, Charles Appleby and Godolphin, Master of the Seas. We're going to take a look at the stretch run here, Summer Mile, a Group 2 event over at Ascot. He's going to be a nice winner of that, and coming in for these connections will attract attention. But it's a fun 6-horse field, but Iced Chocolate for Mark Cassie is interesting to me. Cheryl Spite, intriguing. As I say, I'm going to take a little pop at maybe a modest upset with War Bomber, but we're watching the stretch run here of the even money morning line favorite, Master of the Seas, get it done at Ascot. What are your thoughts in the Woodbine Mile?
I like War Bomber too. That's who I picked.
Nice.
I think this race will be run similar to the prep for this race, the Grade 2 King Edward, where War Bomber tracked front-running Treason and was able to wear him down on the wire, and it was his best career race. And he's really improved a lot with every race this year. And I just think he's sitting on a peak race. He should be tracking My Sea Codge was supplemented by Cassie, and he's the clear speed. They don't want War Bomber dueling for the lead. They're adamant he needs a target. That's what he got last time. That's what he should get today. Whether he can hold off Cheryl Spite and Master of the Seas, I think that'll be the big question, right? And Master of the Seas is a deserving favorite. Appleby and Godolphin have won 7 consecutive Grade 1 races at Woodbine, believe it or not, dating back 3-4 years. But they don't win the way they used to in North America and in England, I think. So I think he's worth trying to beat at a, maybe odds-on price. And Cheryl Spite, what a horse he is. He was kind of cut off by Modern Games in this race last year, and went on. Modern Games went on to win, and then Modern Games beat Cheryl Spite in the Breeders' Cup Mile when I bet on Cheryl's at 55-1, and. Then he had that unusual winter campaign where he went to run on the dirt in Japan. That race was a waste of time in a Group 1. And then he flew to Dubai, ran a pretty good fourth in a $5 million race. And then after it was telling me subsequently that, when he got back to the States in Chicago, he got colic. He was in a clinic for a bit. Then he was on a farm for a while because he couldn't get back into Canada across the border. So really, when he came back into the King Edward as a favorite on August 19th, he was kind of a flat fourth, but it's a race he really needed. So he's come back with some super work since then, and I think he's sitting on a good race. And the reason I didn't really pick him on top is just because of the small field, and he's a closer. But I would think that, John Velasquez has picked up the mount. I would see him maybe putting him in third and seeing if he can run down the speed. And JR's won this race a record 5 times. So he's not up here just for the, for whatever. He's here to ride this race and the others. So that's kind of, Cassie has 2 more in the race, both closers. Lucky Score was third in the King Edward, and then, like you mentioned, Ice Chocolat coming off a belated third in the Grade 1 4-star Dave at Saratoga behind Casa Creed and Annapolis. So that was his best career race, and he's picking up Joel Rosario. He's retaining Joel Rosario. He could be closing into the top 3 or 4. But that's kind of the way I see the race up.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Cheryl Spike can do. I left that one out of my mix, but I think you nailed it. Got the last race, which I think maybe gets him back in good form. You mentioned having bet on that one at 55-1 in the Breeders' Cup Mile. You didn't mention you just missed. That had to be completely frustrating. Second by 3/4 of a length. So he was in good form last year, and maybe is getting back to where that could work out. Fun edition this afternoon of the Woodbine Mile. Also, this is new, right? That the 2-2-year-old races are on the same day as the mile.
Yeah, you're right. They previously were run the next day.
Yeah,
and, which worked out good. The mile field came up a little light in numbers, and the Summer and the Talma came up as terrific races.
Yeah, the Natalma for the 2-year-old fillies. And some of these are cross-entered. I'm sure to take a look and see which is going to be tougher. So it'll be fun to see who goes where. I pulled up a replay going back to Saratoga because, again, I'm going to take a little shot with a price in here. I'm going to look at the maiden debut victory for Brock Nardini going out for George Weaver and company. I thought it was a nice-looking win in the career debut. This is a New York bred, and I just found it intriguing that they elected, off a good-looking win at Saratoga in the debut, elected to go up and try this Grade 1 up at Woodbine. Dia Matrona is interesting for Chad Brown, first in North America. Ready to Jam for Mark Cassie. She feels pretty for Cherie DeVoe. They're all horses I thought were real players in here, but I could point to probably 3 or 4 others and have similar confidence. What are your thoughts on the Natalma?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's such a wide open race. Unfortunately, I don't have the scratches yet, but they should be out in an hour. And Cassie and Kevin Attard both cross-entered 2 fillies each into both races, and they were both holding their cards close to their vest yesterday when I texted them about where they were going to run, and no word yet as of yesterday. But and there's been a lot of sick horses on the 2-year-olds on the backstretch, so I think you got to kind of wake up this morning and see if everybody's okay, and then go from there in terms of who you run in which race. And I picked Ready to Jam. I really liked her maiden win. It was very impressive. And then she came back in the local prep to catch a glimpse. She got in a little trouble that day and finished second to Arosa, who a very, very nice filly of Kevin Attard's, who is cross-entered in both races. Arosa broke her maiden on the lead, 2 back on the turf, but in the catch a glimpse, she ended up in 4th and had to wait for room and rallied along the inside in a real professional manner. So you got to use her. I think you got to use, if you're playing that pick 5 on the 5 races, that I think you got to use the horses that you already mentioned. I think I'll take a stand against Dazzling Star. This is the Charlie Appleby Godolphin filly, the only horse from Europe in the race. She's coming off a 4th in a Group 3 at Ascot. She's got the rail in a huge field, so maybe she'll get in a little bit of traffic. I mean, I don't know how good she is. It's just a guess, but she'll probably be the lukewarm favorite, and I'd want to go against her, even though the rail's coming down for this week. So the inside path or 2 are going to be the best ground, the ground that hasn't been used much in the last month or so. So yeah, you can go a lot of different ways here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm against Dazzling Star in here. But I do think it's a wide open and a fun edition of the Natalma. And it's going to be fun to see where the fillies do elect to go, choosing between one or the other of the 2-year-old stakes races. Also on the card, the Vigil Grade 3 event, 150K up for grabs, going 6 furlongs. And I couldn't get past. I went with the winner of the Bold Venture, the race we're going to look at here. This was just a few weeks ago, August 20th. It's going to be Patches O'Houlihan to run the record to 6 wins in 7 starts. I looked and I debated because I thought Outlaw Kid for George Weaver was intriguing off a win in the Vice Regent up at Woodbine most recently. Rock Crest, intriguing to me, my buddy B, but I just couldn't get past that. And we just saw the horse come under the wire there in the Bold Venture. Patches O'Houlihan just looks maybe too good in here. What did you see in the Vigil?
Yeah, I mean, Patches is quite a story. An Ontario sired 3-year-old who's evolved into the top sprinter at Woodbine. And going from Ontario sired company to the Grade 3 Bold Venture last time, he got to the rail on the lead, which was the rail was good that day on King's Plate Day. It was the same card, so that helped him a bit. It looked like he was going to get caught in the stretch, and then he kind of kicked in late and held on. Now, I think Rock Crest will try and go with him today. Maybe my buddy B, the Kentucky shipper from Paulo Lobo. So I don't think he's going to get any easy leads here. I'm like you. I picked him. Outlaw Kid this is his first synthetic track start, so he's a real wild card in the race. But he came here and won the Vice Regent, going 5/8 on the inner turf. He's an Ontario bred. That's why he was able to run that race, and that race was for Ontario breds. Did it quite nicely. So I kind of think I have to use him if all the speed hooks up. And I guess my long shot would be Super Watson, who he won a 3rd level allowance optional claim or 2 back. And then he ran in the Bold Venture. He had a wide trip on that day when the rail was good, sort of was a flat 5th. I think he could rebound at maybe a big price to have a chance anyhow. That's kind of the way I looked at this race.
Yeah, Super Watson's interesting. As you were talking, I was looking in the hunt more often than not. Outlaw Kid, I will note, worked just recently up here at Saratoga, so we have a little bit of a local connection there. Was in the race 2 back at Saratoga, but won last time at Woodbine, but it came back to Saratoga to work. Also on the card, more 2-year-olds in the summer Grade 1 event. As I said, there are some fillies cross-entered against the boys, but I'm going to go with my boy Prince, and we're going to look at the Simcoe here back on August 27th. Going to get it done and get it done very easily. This is a field of 11 and wins by a chart margin of 14 lengths. 2nd win in 3 career starts. This is off the maiden breaker. This was very impressive. Now, going to have to move to the grass today and going to have to stretch out. Will that be an obstacle? I'm going to hope not. It's Mark Cassie. Joe Rosario is going to get the ride today. I think if Golden Canary, the filly, goes, she's interesting. Erosa, who you mentioned earlier in the filly race, she would be interesting if she elected to go, as would go with the Gusto. But on the boys' side, King of the Track and Carson's Run for our friends at West Point Thoroughbreds could be interesting. Again, a lot of this is going to play off what the scratches say, but who do you like in the summer this afternoon?
I think my boy Prince may be the best 2-year-old at Woodbine. But you mentioned, there's a lot of questions regarding him, right? Going into the Simcoe, he was off for 2 months. He had a foot abscess. So he only had 2 works, 2 5/8 works going into the Simcoe, and he was able to just blow that field away. So he's obviously a really good horse. Now he's coming back in 3 weeks, stretching out, new surface, bred for the turf, by the way, too. The Dam was a stakes winner on sprinting here on the turf. And I know Cassie loves Cairo Princes on the turf. They're obviously very good that way. Whether he can duplicate that coming back in 3 weeks it just makes me want to use a bunch more horses in the race. Like, Carson's Run. The horse I picked on top was a horse. Tunicky is going to be 20-30 to 1, I think. His maiden win here back in July was pretty. He did it pretty nicely on sprinting on the main turf. Beat a next out winner, Western World, who's in this race. he's had really. He worked on September 1st. I saw his work, and he just blew the doors off at 2 mates in 58 and change. And he came back with a nice, easier work a week later. So he's my long shot pick with Emma Wilson, and Barbara Minchell does a good job. So I kind of like him. And I'm not sure where Go with Gusto is going to run because she's cross-entered in both races, but her debut maiden win from post 10 on the inner turf was pretty impressive. She did get disqualified for bothering a horse in the race, but the fact that she could win going around 2 turns first time on this tight inner course from post 10, I think she's a filly with a future. So I'm using her in the pick 5, regardless of which race she's in.
Tanucci and Go with Gusto, both in the 20-1. When I do my afternoon handicapping show, I'm going to give you your picks a little shout out, certainly at the prices. This also does kick off that pick 5, race number 6, the summer. And I'll also mention Golden Canary. I think when you enter in both, you're looking at the field and you're looking for post positions, but Golden Canary gets stuck on the outside in both of them, so that the post position isn't going to make anything easier for Mark Casse. But Golden Canary did beat the boys last time in the Soaring Free.
Yeah, Phillies ran 1, 2, 3 in that Soaring Free, which is like a prep for the summer, or in the Talma, I guess. But the other prep was the Catch a Glimpse on the same card, both 6.5 furlong turf races. So yeah, she did nicely that day, and beating stablemate Dancing Duchess, who's in here too.
And as I say, going to be interesting to see how it plays out the 2-year-old races as far as the scratches. But they are an addition to a really nice card this afternoon. Ron, again, I'm sorry we aren't up there. It's always fun being up at Woodbine, seeing you in the press box, you and the whole gang. But say hello to everybody up there for me. Have a great afternoon, and we'll talk again.
Thanks, Seth. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Ron Gierkink, again, does a great job covering Woodbine on a daily basis for the Daily Racing Forum. You can catch his work at drf.com. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, a little bit of news and notes, and then as noted a little bit earlier, we'll also be joined a little bit later on by John Piassek from the Maryland Horse Breeders Association, because a big stakes day down at Pimlico as well. All of that right after this. Stay tuned.
No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. You'll get live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform, and best of all, you get track prices. CapitalOTBBet.com. Bet any place, anytime at CapitalOTBBet.com. And be sure to download our new mobile app from the iTunes Store or Google Play.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. As noted, some news and notes here, but I'll tout you on a couple of races of note today. One coming up in just a few minutes, and another one down at Delaware that, again, worth kind of noting and maybe paying a little bit of attention to. But at Doncaster in the UK, the St. Ledger coming up in 9 minutes. And notably because, again, Frankie Dettori is on the retirement tour, as it were. And because of the ground, he elected to ride Arrest in the St. Ledger. He is hoping to win it for his 24th British Classic victory. His first ride in a British Classic, Frankie Dettori, at age 18 in the St. Leger in 1989. And just really a phenomenal career. I had the luck and pleasure to actually interview him in person at Gulfstream a few years ago, Frankie Dettori, and that nice one on the resume. His first win in a classic, a British Classic, was Balanchine in the Epsom Oaks in 1994. If he wins today, it will be his 7th time winning the St. Leger. And again, that would bring him to 24 total British Classics that match him with Jem Robinson and put him behind only the venerable and very legendary Lester Piggott, who had 30 Classic victories, and Frank Buckle with 27. So again, Frankie Dettori on board Arrest, who is currently, I'm looking at my Capital OTB bet count here, currently the 2-1 favorite with that St. Leger about 7 minutes away. Mile and 13/16 on the turf, just about $900,000 up for grabs in the St. Leger. And as noted, British Classic, these are 3-year-olds. Arrest coming out of a victory last time for John Gosden, Juddmonte runner that in the career 4 wins in 8 starts. And again, 2-1 is the co-favorite. Continuous going out for Aidan O'Brien with Ryan Moore on board, coming out of a win at York last time at 1.5 miles is the co-favorite at 2-1. So just interesting, again, with Frankie Dettori on this, as noted, retirement tour, as it were, going for a final try at a victory in a British Classic to make it 24 total British Classic victories throughout the career. And again, he rode in his first one in 1989, won his first one in 1994, 30 years ago. As I say, quite a substantial and laudable career for Frankie Dettori. So that's one to watch coming up in a few minutes. But again, a little bit later this afternoon, post time 3:30 today, the Delaware Park Cape Henlopen, $200,000 up for grabs, 1.5 miles on the grass. And I just mentioned it because it's a nice little field in here, field of 10 scheduled. It includes the venerable Cross Border going out for Mike Maker. Comes out of a near-miss 3rd up at Saratoga last time. The 9-year-old Millionaire was in the Belmont Gold Cup before that. Tried a couple of jump races to begin the year and won the seasonal debut down at Aiken. Then went back to the flat, was going over the jumps for Kerry Breon, now over the flat for Mike Maker. But interesting to see what Cross Border can do in here at age 9. But the notable one is Christophe Clement runner Tawny Port. This horse started the career in the barn of Brad Cox, 7th in the Kentucky Derby last year, won the Ohio Derby, 3rd in the Jim Dandy, won the Lexington. So kind of a talented 3-year-old in those classic type of races, but came back in the barn of Christophe Clement this year up at Saratoga on the turf in the Bowling Green, ran 5th, and then went in the restricted John's Call and won that, and now shows up here for the 3rd turf start of the career. Again, it's the Cape Henlopen down at Delaware with Tawny Port in a field of 10, which includes the 9-year-old Cross Border. So another one that'll be kind of fun to watch. Kentucky Downs recently completed meet. Handle went up 4.3%. $25 million offered in purses for 76 races. And what was notable to me on the press release that came out with numbers for the Kentucky Downs meet, they averaged 10.42 starters. Most tracks, virtually all tracks, when it gets to the end of the meet, they'll be averaging 7-something to maybe 8-something starters. 10.42, which is understandable because they put up $25 million for 76 races. There was a lot of money up for grabs, and like the old, Kevin Costner movie, if you build it, they will come. If you offer up millions and millions of dollars, they will come as well, evidenced by the 10.42. It made the races fun to bet, given that the prices are better with big fields. But boy, they're skullbusters down there, because some horses take to the course, some don't. And it seemed like the last couple of days, if you had the lead in the stretch, it was tough to get by, because it would look like a horse had the lead. It would look like a few other horses had some momentum as they came into that long stretch. And just when you thought, we got some momentum, and maybe we aren't going to go by. So if you were right, you got paid, but it's tough to be right time after time after time. As I said earlier on the handicapping show, I, because of Saratoga and the dates and overlaps and whatnot, the only days I looked at Kentucky Downs were last Friday and Saturday, and then Wednesday, their closing day, and actually did okay with the, overall and with the ROI and whatnot. And it would have been much better closing day if Copper M at a big price winds up running second, and a decent little second for Asmussen, but I want to say 20-something to 1, 24 to 1, or and just couldn't get up and get the win. That would have made it a much nicer last few days at Kentucky Downs. Not that I was knocking it dead by any means, but I felt pretty good doing what I did with some positive ROIs on a couple of the last 3 days. Speaking of that, favorites won 23 of the 76 races. So 30%, kind of on the low end of what you would expect the average, which is typically in about 30 to 36 for winning favorites. So we were on the low end. This article says the national average is about 33. None of them was sent off at odds greater than 2.97 to 1. The lowest odds winner was 0.35 cents to the dollar. 20 winners were sent off at double-digit odds. There were only 6 odds-on favorites overall. And that's what I say. Big fields make for nice prices. Only 6 odds-on favorites, and 4 of them won. And it was interesting also in the press release that I saw, they parsed out where horses had last race. Of the 76 winners at Kentucky Downs, 29 of them had raced last time at Ellis. 19 had won at Saratoga. So combined, horses that won either Ellis or Saratoga won 63% of the races. So about 2/3 of the races came out of either Ellis or Saratoga. Maybe worth making note of next year when you're looking and looking for a little bit of a kind of an angle in there. When all was said and done on the human side of things, Tyler Gaffalione opened up a little bit of space, because the jockey battle was close throughout. Again, on a short meet, you would expect that. But Tyler Gaffalione opened up a little bit with 12 wins total. He was the meet leader over Joel Rosario with 7, Florent Joe 6, Jose Ortiz tied 5 with Christian Torres. But again, it was a 5-win margin for Tyler Gaffalione. And as I say, he opened up a little margin. Tyler won 3 on closing day. Brendan Walsh had a great meet. 28 starters, 8 wins. He was 3 ahead of Mike Maker and Safi Joseph, who each had 5. Jonathan Thomas with 4. Steve Asmussen with 3, as were Graham Motion and Brian Lynch. But Brendan Walsh with 8, 3 ahead of Mike Maker. And he kind of had a good start to finish meet, and he won. Brendan Walsh won 1 on each of the last couple of days that allowed him to open up that margin a little bit. We're going to go to John Piassek in just a moment, but I'm wondering, Dan, can you pull up the St. Ledger? So maybe we'll do that. Go to the St. Ledger. Again, it's Frankie Dettori's last shot at a British Classic. He is going to be on board number 2, Arrest, who is now the second choice. The favorite is number 4, Continuous. Continuous goes out for Aiden O'Brien. Arrest going out for John Gosden with Frankie Dettori on board. Again, Arrest being the number 2 horse. So we'll take a look. Set your sundial because, again, this is 1 mile and 13/16. So it's going to take a couple of minutes, but that'll lead us into our interview with John Piassek coming up in a few. So we'll send it out to Doncaster and see if Frankie Dettori can land his 24th career British Classic victory in his last year of racing as they load in at Doncaster for the upcoming St. Leger. Stay tuned. Back in a few, John Piassek will take a look at the nice stakes day at Pimlico coming up right after this.
So Price is there, but I do think he's been underestimated here on the basis of what we've seen from him. And that run last time out, he was staying on again at the finish over a shorter distance at York last time. Okay, Continuous won that race quite comfortably in the end, but Gregory, I think, will be suited by the longer distance today. And I think he comes into it, although I reckon that he'll be even better next year over even longer trips than this. He looks like a cup horse in the making for 2024. Just 2 more to go. Mike Catamol, our commentator at Doncaster this afternoon. This is Middle Earth going in. Can he improve enough to win this afternoon? It's not impossible. Or will it go to Frankie Dettori in what should be his last ever St. Leger? Let's join our commentator on Townmoor Doncaster, Mike Catamol.
Set to go then for the 2023 Betfred St. Leger, and away they go over this iconic extended 14 furlong trip, and a nice break by Chess Piece on the outside of Denmark in the blue cap, who begins to immediately serve his intentions and is alongside Gregory in the early stages. Should be a good pace on here. Chess Piece in 3rd. Frankie's got a rest in 4th place with next to the rail the pink cap of Alexandroupolis. Continuous is taking a little bit of a grip in the early part of the race. Desert Hero looks relaxed next to the rail. And then Tower of London last but one, and Middle Earth is locked away in last place for Oisin Murphy, about 7 lengths off the speed as the runners race away from the grandstands and heading down the back straight here. They're about to take the left-hand turn, which will take them through their first half mile of the contest. It's Denmark then in front for Tudhope, taken on by Gregory on the inside there, Kieran Schumacher. Chess Piece racing in 3rd for James Doyle as they cross over Rose Hill on the far side. They're followed then by Alexandroupolis and Arrest, and Frankie Dettori in 5th place under restraint. Arrest. On the inside then is the Royal Runner Desert Hero, Tom Marquand, and then right behind these two is Continuous and Ryan Moore. Middle Earth has just made a bit of a forward move, relegating Tower of London to last place in what looks to be a fairly generously run race so far. They've gone off pretty quickly here. It's going to be a proper stamina test as they go through the more or less the halfway stage of the contest here. So moving across the far side of Townmoor in the Betfred St. Leger of 2023. It's still Denmark on the outside of Gregory, only a bob of the heads between them. Right behind them poised is Chess Piece. A length and a half away then is Alexandroupolis. And then Frankie tracking that one with a rest on the outside of Desert Hero. And then they followed them by Continuous and Tower of London and Middle Earth, just being squeezed along now by Oisin Murphy as they come into view of the grandstands with 5 furlongs left to go. They're turning into the home straight now in the Leger. 8 lengths would cover the field. Who's going best? Out in front here is Denmark. Gregory cruising on the inside for Kieran Schumacher in the red cap. Now angling for run, Alexandroupolis. Continuous is being asked a few questions by Ryan. Chess Piece, and then Frankie on the outside with a rest. Now starts to make giant strides, followed by Desert Hero. Tom Marquand just shut in slightly there. Tower of London on his outside. They're inside the final 2.5 furlongs in the St. Leger, and making his bid for glory is Continuous. Arrest is chasing him down in 2nd place, followed on the outside by Tower of London, but Continuous seems to have the Leger within his grasp as they approach the final furlong. Desert Heroes plugging away back and forth, but Ryan Moore and Continuous are pouring it on in the closing stages here. Arrest and Frankie can't do anything about it. And Continuous, he's all out though, but he's going to win it really well. Takes us at Leger. Number 7 for Aidan O'Brien. Arrest was 2nd. Desert Hero ran on nicely behind them with Tower of London and Gregory in a super renewal of the world's oldest classic.
Yep, It was a fine performance by Continuous, longer distance today, but he stayed it really well. Ryan Moore and Aidan O'Brien, another big race win for them.
Nice run from Frankie Dettori in his last, as the announcer said, scheduled to be his last British Classic, but I would expect that to be the case. Nice second in there, but the other horse just got the jump on him. I think that was Continuous. I think that was the horse that eventually went off as the favorite. Let me just check our odds. Yeah, Continuous. There it is, number 4, getting it done. Got the jump on Arrest. Arrest made a nice move. Frankie pulled him out. Once he saw it opening and maybe a furlong or so out, got going and got the momentum. He just, as I say, got the second jump as the winner. Just was out a little bit ahead of him. So second for Frankie Dettori in his last British Classic. All right, as noted a little bit earlier, nice stakes day coming up at Pimlico down in Maryland. Their short September meet. So I thought we'd reach out to our friend John Piassek from the Maryland Horse Breeders Association, get some thoughts on some of the stakes action this afternoon. John, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. How you doing?
Very good. Happy to have you on board via phone. We were happy to have you up in Saratoga sitting in live with us. I trust your Saratoga visit went well.
It was awesome. I ended up getting randomized in the Alabama. I was quite happy with that. And, no better place to be. But you know what? It's a Chamber of Commerce style day here in Maryland. It's low 80s, sunny, and a great day of racing here, too. So I'm looking forward to diving in.
Oh, I was going to ask you the weather. Now I'm envious because it was nice here when I drove in. It was not 80s, though, and I don't know whether we're going to get there today. But that's great for a nice day of racing down at Pimlico. And, again, what the September meet is about 3 weeks?
Yes. It's started last weekend, then this week, then one week, and then we go back to Laurel. That's a nice way to break up the circuit and give the Laurel courses a bit of time off because we had Timonium, of course, previous 2 weekends, now here for 3. So, just breaks things up. It's nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk a lot about it on our handicapping show. My colleague Anthony Mormino says he wants to go down. I'd like to go down too. That Timonium, the fair. I'm always envious. You look at that shot of the home stretch with the Ferris wheel in the background. You gotta love that.
Oh, it's a magical place. Outside of Saratoga and maybe Monmouth Park, I don't have as much fun going to a track as I do to Timonium. Yeah. Atmosphere is great. Always a full house, as you said, like right by the fair. And betting this year was way up, handle up double digits. Crowds were great. On-track betting was up. Lots of great racing. Not that many winning favorites. So all in all, just a spectacular Timonium season.
Yeah, I like that. So I have to make it down sometime. All right, let's take a look at some of the stakes action. We'll kind of work our way backwards from race number 10 this afternoon. It's the Baltimore-Washington International Turf Cup. I pulled up a replay right up here at Saratoga going back to August 5th, the Lure. It's going to be the number 2, Smokin' Tea. Subsequent to this, Smokin' Tea went down and tried the Mint Million at Kentucky Downs, ran third, but a very close up third. But we're watching the win up at Saratoga for Smokin' Tea. I put him on top. I thought Wolfie's Dynagos was kind of an equal competitor, though, off the win at Kentucky Downs for Wolfie's Dynagos. Highest distinction comes in with a couple of race win streak. King Vega is playable for Graham Motion. What did you see in the International?
Well, I should note Wolfie's Dynagos has been scratched. He'll go at Presque Isle Downs on Monday instead.
Okay.
And I think that makes King Vega's job a lot easier here. He ran huge last time out at Colonial Downs, first start off about a 9-month layoff in a stakes quality allowance after claiming field. Led almost the whole way. Ended up finishing in a dead heat. Nonetheless, ran a career best figure on the Brisnet scale. And again, that was his first start in 9 months. Should get even better with a race under his belt. And with that, Wolfie's Dynagos, he should be allowed this cruise on the front end.
Yeah, certainly, again, Wolfie's Dynagos going out does shake things up a little bit. Cazadero was also interesting to me coming down for David Jacobson. If folks are looking for a price, I could see maybe making a case for that one as well.
Yeah, he has probably the best late kick in the field. Not quite sure how he'll do going 2 turns, but I don't think he's quite a 5.5, 6 furlong horse, which is what he has been doing. He did win the Neotic last October. Since then, though, hasn't hit the board. Has been coming on late, but just has run out of time. We'll see how he does going a mile.
All right, let's go back to race number 9, the Weather Vane. $100,000 up for grabs for the 3-year-old fillies going 6. I pulled up a replay, and I think Miss Buchero is kind of interesting. Now, how will the Penn National form translate, and how will the number translate? Because I thought the 80 buyer last time was interesting. But we're watching the stretch run here to that allowance optional claimer at Penn National back on August 9th. Miss Buchero, a player. Apple Picker, I thought was interesting. Started the career with some promise on the dirt, but has been over on the turf the last couple of races for Brittany Russell. Michael Dubb owned horse. Blind Spot for Safi Joseph comes in off a couple of tries at Woodbine. Rudy Rodriguez brings down Fancy Joke. Michael Matz has Late Frost coming in off a nice buyer number, running 3rd in the Charlestown Oaks. I think this is kind of an intriguing field. What did you see in the Weather Vane?
I mean, if Ms. Buchero runs back to most of her recent races, she's going to beat this field laughing. She's won 4 of her last 5 by open lengths, all of them on the lead, and she has the best early pace figures in the field, so she should be able to get a pretty good trip on the front end. The only thing that's mildly alarming is her start 2 starts back in Dashing Beauty, where she lost by 18 lengths. On one hand, it was a much tougher field than the one you'll see here. Alva Star, who won that race by daylight, came back and won the prior race up at Saratoga. And Miss Buchero was wide on the pace that day. She'll get a much more ground-saving trip. On the other hand, it was the only race she ran without Lasix. And she has no Lasix today either. So I guess we'll see. But if she is fine without Lasix, she'll go gate to wire and it won't even be that close.
Yeah, we're looking at 5-1 on the morning line. Now that you're as enthusiastic as I am, I wonder if the 5-1 will hold up.
Right, like, I was talking to you, I was talking to a few other folks on other shows. So if they'll listen to me, it's going to go down quite a bit. We'll see what happens.
But as I say, I think it's a fun field. Trombetta has a live oak horse in here, so that one should be interesting to watch, and interesting to watch before the race just to see where the odds board goes. The all along race number 8 this afternoon. I am going to pull up a replay of Full Count Felicia. This will be Colonial Downs back on August 19th. She wins pretty nicely. Field of 8 wins off by over a couple of lengths. I think Full Count Felicia is very interesting. Moofy for Jonathan Thomas and Augustin, a team I always like, comes in off a win at Ellis. Win at Colonial for Unruly Julie also makes that one interesting. Another fun race in here. The All Along, the 8th race this afternoon. What did you see?
There are 4 scratches in this one, including Moofy. 7, 9, and 12 are also out. So in total, 3, 7, 9, and 12 not going to go. I did pick Full Count Felicia on top. I think she has very similar form to King Vega in that she ran big first off the layoff against a tough field at Colonial Downs. I really liked her start 2 starts back at Laurel back in mid-November, where she closed them off a slow pace and beat a pretty strong first-level field by daylight. Of course, Brittany and Sheldon also always a very tough trainer and jockey combination here. Should get a good trip on the pace on the rail, and from there, just power away.
Yeah, owned by Al Gold, who tends to have clever names for his horses. Full Count Felicia. I don't know if that's a reference. Do you know Full Count Felicia?
I'm not sure. I guess after the race, maybe if he's interviewed, to find out. I am curious.
Yeah, because as I say, it's an Al Gold runner, and he typically is fairly clever with his names. 7th race of Pimlico today, the Light the Fuse, $100,000, 3-year-olds and up, going 3/4 of a mile. Sir Alfred James looks interesting, stage left. Wonder where Craig is. Close-up second place finish last time and a little bit of a rebound effort in the DeFrancis. Jackson Traveler goes out for our friends at West Point Thoroughbreds. Who do you like in the Light the Fuse?
So 3 scratches in here, 4, 6, and 7 are scratched, but it really doesn't matter who else is in the race, because wonder where Craig is looks much the best. Ran big last time out in the DeFrancis Dash. I thought a nice bounce back race. Set the pace, ended up getting caught late by Lightning Larry, who is a nice local Mid-Atlantic sprinter. But Wonder Craig did run a big figure that day, a 95 on the business scale. That's his biggest figure in about a year and a half. It looks like he's starting to round back into his best form. As long as he breaks well, he'll be able to cross over to the rail and the lead, and from there, keep on going.
Yeah, another Brittany Russell, Sheldon Russell runner. This one owned by Michael Dubb, who clearly picked up on Brittany Russell when she was about 50% a couple of falls ago. And Michael Dubb jumped in and has had some runners with her, and this one running in the Michael Dubb colors as well. The Ben's Cat, speaking of, was Ben's Cat kind of before your time, or do you remember the very talented runner for King Leatherberry, right? Ben's Cat down there in Maryland?
Yep, King owned, bred, and trained him. And in fact, at Timonium 2 weeks ago, we inducted him into the Maryland Thoroughbred Hall of Fame along with Mountain Dew, a nice steeple chaser from the mid-'60s. Ben's Cat, he was during my time as a racing fan, but kind of towards the end of when I was really getting into Mid-Atlantic racing. Like, I saw him race 3 times, I think, live. Never saw him hit the board. He was kind of toward the end of his career at the time. But, obviously, he's a great horse. Everyone down here loves him, and he is buried right by the paddock at Laurel Park. So every time I go there, I make sure to pay him a visit.
Ah, nice. Yeah, he was a really fun horse to watch down there for a very great training story with King Leatherberry. But the Ben's Cat, 3-year-olds and up, going 5 on the grass. Sky's Not Falling for Trombo, Mike Trombetta, player in here, commanding general. Be Determined has a chance to rebound. The last race wasn't much, but maybe that helps you get a price. The race 2 back was pretty good. And Witty, clearly for Liz Merriman, looks to be the one to beat off a series of second-place finishes. But given that it's a series of second-place finishes, maybe beatable in a little bit of a bridesmaid mode lately, what do you see in the Ben's Cat?
Witty, of course, is Caravel's half-brother. And if he's ever going to win this year, I know he has a very bad case of secondinitis. If he's ever going to win this year, it's going to be here. I mean, he's faced better horses in, I think, his last few starts. In particular, in the Laurel Dash, he lost to poor Hope, who broke well and just crushed the field. In fact, when he kind of broke slow 2 starts back in the Wolf Hill as well, fell a little farther off the pace than he might have liked, closed well, only lost by a half length. I mean, that's how his speed figures go. He just towers over this field. I have to figure this is going to be the day where he gets by and beats the field. Won't be a great win price, but if you're playing to pick 4 or something with him, I think he's a pretty good horse to build around.
I'm with you, but does it concern you the way it concerns me that the second? I mean, sometimes they just don't want to pass people. But like you, I would land there because I think those horses can kind of eventually find a field that they're just better than.
I see it. I mean, he's almost by default going to get the lead at some point. Yeah. Sky's Not Falling is in nice form, but I don't think he's quite at Witty's caliber. On a speed figure standpoint, on the percent scale, Witty would have to go down a few points to lose his race if everyone else runs the usual figure, and I just don't see why that happens. So perhaps, in spite of himself, he'll get the job done today.
That's it. It will be interesting to see if he's looking around, if he's in the lead and looking around in the final furlong and saying, "Wait a minute, I'm not used to being here." But he does, as you say, does have the numbers edge. And finally, the Shine Again restricted stake for the Fillies and Mayors going 6 in race number 5 this afternoon. I thought First Act was very interesting for Shug. They tried the Molly Pitcher last time. We're a little bit overmatched there. That was also the seasonal debut. I think with that one and you look at the race and maybe the horse has just come back and she's not the same now at age 5. That's what you have to kind of answer for yourself. But class-wise, she might class up nicely with this group. I think Intrepid Daydream is interesting if you're looking for an alternative, maybe even Sweet Gracie. What did you see in the Shine Again?
I'm willing to draw a line through First to Act's last start. It was the first start in a long time, raced wide on a pretty contested pace, and just was eased up late. That being said, I think 6 furlongs is a little bit too short for her, so I'll try to beat her. Except the Daydream has run really big in her last 2 starts, especially in the Caesar's Wish at Laurel back on July 15th, where she dueled the entire way with the Ward 1 and ended up losing by 3 posts of length as Hybrid Eclipse got a great trip and ran them all down. Still ran a big figure that day. Also ran well last out at Colonial, where she dueled in the stretch and lost by a head. Should have a good trip on or near the pace this time, and she's shown that she has the heart to at least hang around in the end.
Yeah, it's going to be another interesting race with First Act. But as you say, another thing against her may be the 6 furlongs as well. Interesting the Shug makes that move, but I agree with you. Intrepid Daydream, dangerous in there. Fun little stakes card today down at Pimlico, and I'm glad to hear some great weather down there as well. John, always fun to talk to you. Say hello to the folks down there. If you see Frank Vespi, Dave Rodman, say hello to our friends down there and wish you a fun afternoon. We'll talk again.
Sounds good, Seth. Take care.
Appreciate it. John Piassek from the Maryland Horse Breeders Association previewing a nice stakes afternoon down at Pimlico this afternoon. A little bit earlier on, Ron Gierkink from the Daily Racing Forum previewing the action up at Woodbine Mile, the Summer, and the Natalma on the 2-year-old side of things. And both of those races are going to be fun to see. I would guess if the scratches aren't up already, they'll be up fairly soon for Woodbine, but it'll be interesting to see with those fillies being cross-entered, who goes where, because that will play into both of those races. Certainly, there were some talented fillies that could match up nicely with the boys if they elect to go there, but they'll clearly match up nicely with the fillies if they stick in that version. So both of the 2-year-old races are a lot of fun as well this afternoon at Woodbine, and we'll be looking at all of that a little bit later on OTB Live for a Saturday afternoon. I'm going to step back and take a little break before we come back, probably about an hour or so, an hour and a half maybe or so, as Belmont at the Big A 105, Churchill to kick off at 2:45. So I'll probably show up again at about 12:30 this afternoon to take a look at the Saturday action on OTB Live. But appreciate you tuning in this morning. Racing across America for a Saturday morning. Let me remind you, promos coming up because today, Clubhouse Racebook double promo day. We have a win-a-bet promotion and a match bet promotion here at the Clubhouse Racebook today. We'd love to have you come down and join us. Same thing tomorrow. Come on down and join us. Football Sundays. You can watch all the football action and all the racing action every Sunday during the season right here at the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. I will also alert you, coming up next Friday, I'll have a $150 late pick 5 bankroll based at Aqueduct, Belmont at the Big A. You can sign up to get your chance to be on the team at the website, and the entries are going to open up on Wednesday. So entries will open up online on Wednesday. They'll stay open for day and a half or so. You'll have plenty of time to sign up. But again, mark that on your calendar. Entries open up Wednesday at capitalotb.com for next Friday's Pick 5 bankroll. All right, going to wrap it up. Seth Merrow in the studio, thanking you for joining us. Hopefully we gave you some good information for this afternoon, but we'll meet right back here to make that information play out practically this afternoon in just about an hour and a half or so for OTB Live for a Saturday afternoon. So we'll see you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.